What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Top 5 Podcast, a show where every week we choose a topic and give it a top 5 ranking. My name is Ron McNerney, and I'm joined here today with my buddies, Zach Blanner,
What's up?
Colin Harding,
Oh boy.
and Matt Bush.
Hey yo.
Today's show is all about our favorite Pixar movies and why the movies we chose are our favorite. So, boys, are you ready?
Of course.
Oh, Matt, I'm so happy you said that because you're
Matt's
first
the only one
today.
who's ready.
I'm going first.
You're going first
ready.
today.
Okay, that's fine. I was ready actually. I was lying. My number 5 is Up. I
Really?
don't know. Yeah.
That low?
I mean,
That low.
I don't know if it's low.
Ron says that low.
Up's a good movie, but like I don't
Oh,
go
I
back
love
and,
Up.
and like rewatch Up on the regular.
Well, clearly Ron's is number 4.
It must be.
Tell us why you put Up as your number 5, Matt.
I mean, first of all, the first 10 minutes of Up are a ride. And then after that, it's just like a fun like adventure movie. Like it's just fun.
Yeah,
It's something to throw on.
the first 10 minutes of Up are like the last 10 minutes of Marley and Me.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's definitely like a roller coaster of a movie. I agree with you though on the adventure. I just like that little matchup, that like the accidental matchup
Like Up
that
has
they
a certain
have.
charm to it that I really like.
Yeah, I love the art style of Up. I think that's what I really like about it.
The art style is like, it's not my favorite. I could have taken it or leave it.
Well,
I guess.
And the dog though, Matt. You can't forget about the pup.
Oh, the dogs are the best part.
Yeah, the dogs are always the best part of those Pixar movies or anything. But Colin, Zach, do you have any opinions on Up?
I don't know. Up is good. I didn't put it on my list if I'm being honest.
Really? Wow.
It's
Is it-
not it didn't I mean it's a good ride. I don't know if it's the best in my opinion for what I
It
enjoy.
almost didn't make mine, but it beats out my numbers, like my one honorable mention, by a little bit.
I liked Up. I honestly kind of forgot about it until Matt just mentioned it.
You forgot about Up?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's kind of some blasphemous shit I'm hearing.
Honestly, I thought it was a Disney movie, Pixar movie.
Yeah, usually, like, at least, for some of, not for all the ones on my list, but I do, like, a quick refresher of just, I went through Disney Plus and just clicked on Pixar and just kind of went through their section just to make sure I didn't, like, choose a Disney movie instead. But, Colin, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is Toy Story. The original Toy Story.
First Toy Story. Tell
First
us,
Toy
Opposed to the
Story.
remake.
Huh?
I said as opposed to the remake.
No, as opposed to 2, 3, and 4.
You big silly.
The number 1, the OG.
what did
Toy
you like about
Story.
the first Toy Story?
I was a huge fan of Buzz Lightyear as a kid, so a lot of that had to do with just the fact that Buzz Lightyear was on it. So I rewatched it a lot, and I just enjoyed it. It's a really good adventure. There's a really good meme that our boy Roach showed us one time. But other than that, like it's a really good story. It's a really good like adventure that they take you on. I think if you subscribe to the whole Pixar universe is all
They're all
together.
Like, connected?
They're all connected and like each one is just a different piece of the timeline. I think this is an interesting one just because of, humanity still kind of normal and now we have talking things that have their own consciousness and stuff. I think Toy Story mainly just because Buzz Lightyear's in it and he's one of the heroes makes it a lot of fun. Yeah, it was a tie between my first honorable mention and Toy Story, if I'm being honest.
What else has that charm of, at least, like, watching, like, Toy Story 4, like, the newest one? The movie kind of just grows up. Like, the whole series grows up with you, also.
I guess. I didn't really, like, Toy Story 3 was good. I'm not gonna, like, I know everybody's gonna sit there and be like, oh, it's Toy Story, but, like, I don't know. I think there's some other Pixar things that are significantly better than the Toy Story series, if I'm being honest. I just don't think they get enough recognition because they didn't push it as hard. Because like obviously Disney's just going to be like Toy Story and like push it as hard as they possibly can, but they're not going to push some of the others as hard as they possibly can.
No, right, that's fair.
You're definitely not wrong.
Yeah, so I just feel like there's better works out there.
I will say, I think Toy Story, I think the first one is my least favorite out of all of them, but they're all phenomenal.
What's your least favorite?
Oh, yeah, I think it is.
I think Toy Story 2 is really good and probably better than Toy Story 1. It's just the like childhood memories that I think does it for Toy Story.
Yeah, for sure. I can understand that.
Yeah, but that's my number 5.
Great pick, I'd say. Well, I'm sure we're gonna be talking about Toy Story in all of our lists in any of the iterations at some point, even if it's an honorable mention.
You'll get tired of hearing Toy Story.
Yeah, sorry about that. My number 5, boys, is Ratatouille.
So
Dude,
so
I
you're a
love it.
memer.
Ratatouille's great.
Ratatouille's a great movie. What are you talking about? I learned the best takeaway I've learned from that movie is you could just control people by pulling their hair.
Of
And you
course.
can make them walk around like your own little personal robot.
You could also learn that in like the first day of martial arts. Usually, if you have a good teacher, they teach you that the body goes wherever the face goes.
Well, Ratatouille is just a mixed martial artist then. So
He kind of is, yeah.
is he fighting Khabib in the next UFC showdown?
You know what? Honestly, if Khabib's going up against him, I feel bad for him.
It's gonna be 101 odds to Khabib
Yeah,
for
it
that one.
doesn't even make any. It's not even a challenge. Like Khabib's going down, he's hitting the mat.
Especially because because
I'm
Remy's a
I'm
rodent
talking,
too,
like-
so he probably
yeah,
getting some disease.
I'm talking this match isn't even lasting more than like 20 seconds. Like it's gonna be a quick knockout, done.
It'll just be like the McGregor fight all over again.
I mean,
but yeah, I don't know. I'm a big fan of Ratatouille. I don't know. I think it just had like that little animal charm of just like here's like rats who are just looked at as just like disgusting little rodents, but in this movie he's just a cute little guy who just wants to be a chef in France. I think it just had that like charm.
yeah.
Like a lot of all the Pixar movies have charm in some way, shape, or form, and Disney movies too. But and also calling the memes a little bit of Ratatouille.
Yeah, I mean, I think all Pixars get a lot of memes. So like,
unless you're just for DreamWorks' sake, it's just Shrek memes.
yeah, yeah. I think you get a lot of memes out of Pixar just because they're almost like just a movie that everybody's seen at this point. Like their movies,
It's like
just everybody.
They're
just
animated,
watch.
but they're like animated. Like they're very expressive.
Yeah,
The way that they
yeah.
draw the characters, so it's easier to template. I think.
I also feel like Ratatouille is a movie a lot of people forget about.
I think it's a little
I don't think
underrated.
so. I really enjoy Ratatouille. It's just like so.
The problem with Ratatouille is that it's just not as good as the other ones.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Honestly,
probably like Ratatouille and my first honorable mention at number 5 easily could be replaced because I always usually try to make my first honorable mention something that like is replaceable with my number 5, and then the rest are just things that I enjoyed that I think are decent or something or had some special quality. So like a lot of the other Pixar movies could be my number 5. It's just Toy Story definitely took the spot, and I just think others are definitely better than Ratatouille. I think a lot of people can recognize that Ratatouille is really good. I mean, what's not even I shouldn't phrase it like that. It is extremely fun just to have a story where like I mean, Matt's also really good at cooking, and I enjoy cooking as well. And I take lots of time cooking and doing things, and it's kind of fun to have like one of your hobbies put into a movie as well.
yeah, 100%.
It just gives you that little like recognition, of just more
Yeah,
You're like
attachment
Leo
to the
sitting on the
character.
couch pointing at the TV, like, "Hey, I do that sometimes."
Yeah, I've done that. I've been there. I've made that once. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass, something like that. Like it's fun. I think a lot of people recognize it. I think it's one of the higher selling Pixar movies.
And I'm sure it's got a lot of rewatch on Disney Plus too. It's like a lot of people probably just rediscovered the movie also if they were just watched it once as a kid and kind of
I
forgot
haven't
about
watched. I haven't watched it in a long time.
it. There's a lot
Yeah,
of movies I want
I've
to
kind of only
rewatch.
watched it a few times, and then after you see it a few times, you kind of go, okay, I saw it enough. But
As a couple of the movies that I'm sure will be on our list today from like high school, especially.
yeah,
I've been watching a lot of Pixar movies in high school. But yeah, Ratatouille is my number 5 pick. We're gonna shift it over to Zach. How we looking on your list, Zach?
My number 5 is A Bug's Life.
A Bug's Life.
Ooh,
It's a banger.
See,
Really?
I'm just gonna cause some spoilers right now. That's my technical number 6. That's my first honorable mention.
honestly,
Because I definitely felt like that could have been a number 5. It's just Toy Story had Buzz Lightyear, and I was just such more of a fan of Buzz Lightyear as a kid.
I'm just not that big of a fan of Bug's Life. But
Oh,
Zach, tell us
thought
why it's
that
on
was
your
really good.
list.
It's not even that I'm that big of a fan of Bugs Life necessarily, because I don't think it's the best movie. But I just remember watching it with my dad and my family as a kid, and then I had a video game of A Bug's Life. It was kind of like a oh fuck, I forget the genre, but it's like a point and click adventure basically, but like it was a puzzle. It was like kind of like the bits of Telltale where it's like you had to get one of Flint. Was it Flint? Is that the main character's name? Flint Fleet. I don't know.
Something like that. I don't remember.
You have to get his invention working, but in order to do that, you need a part. But to get the part, you have to help this person, and this person wants you to go get something for them. But in order to get something for them, you have to go find a tool. To get the tool, you got to help them some other person. It's like this big like quest thing. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like one of those.
It's like a fetch quest for
Yeah.
a inventor.
Yeah, it's like a puzzle. So it's kind of like the one episode of like Zoe 101 where she wants to do something, but she wants to like go out, but like to do that she needs to get a babysitter for her brother, but the person who's going to babysit him wants her to do her homework, so she needs to get someone to do. You guys understand.
And you also have, the person who's trying to stop them are the grasshoppers, because the grasshoppers are like the big bully who tries to like they're kind of like the mafia in a sense. Like they come knocking at your door and they say, hey, pay us $500 for insurance. And then you say, why would I do that? And then they start breaking stuff, and they say, just in case somebody wants to come in and break stuff. That's kind of how I see the grasshoppers. Is they're like these people who are like, just give it to me because I'm bigger and worse than you are.
Well, I was talking about the game that I was playing. Like that's how the game was kind of set up. But what I really liked about the movie, like I like the main character. He's kind of like this like inventor who always is causing problems, but like keeps trying to invent things that will help the ant colony and help them get food faster. And like he's very innovative, but like some of his inventions don't exactly always go well. But I really like that about the main character in general. But as Colin said, yeah, you have like the grasshoppers who come in at once a year, collect like steal half the ants' food. And then the whole plot of the movie is Fleet does something to cause the food to be destroyed. The grasshoppers are pissed, so they basically give him he has like 2 weeks or something to get double the food that they owed them. Or
Yeah.
so yeah,
His
it's a really
name
good
is
movie. Flick, it's Flick. Yeah, so they do that whole thing, and then in the end, like they rise up against the grasshoppers. It's a good movie. It's a feel good movie.
And then it ends with like, Flick is back to doing his inventions and he's improving ant kind and stuff. And it's kind of cool.
Yeah, happy ending.
It kind of felt like they were going to make another movie after it, honestly, the way they ended it. Like he's improving his inventions and he's doing more inventions and he's, now more of a well-respected person. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, so Bug's Life 2 is going to be about like, he's probably going to be more mature. And now there's a serious issue with like, say, I don't know, humans coming and trying to take out the anthill or something. I don't know.
I don't know. I thought it ended pretty nicely. It's a happy ending. Like he wasn't very respected. He was always made fun of, and now he kind of found a home, and people finally understand like what he was doing was always helping, and he kind of saved the village. It's a very classic type of story. But yeah,
Yeah,
number five.
I
Bug's
haven't
Life.
I haven't watched it, I think, more than once, if I'm being honest. Like
Jeez.
I kind of just watched it, and it was kind of just a forget about movie. I wasn't that big of a fan of it. But yeah, Zach, it's your number 5. Matt, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is Finding Nemo.
Finding Nemo.
Really? Did you did you like the English version or the German version the most?
We're not messing with no foreign languages.
No foreign languages.
No foreign languages. Like not from high school or anything. Our German class version of watching
No.
it.
Fuck German class. I think Finding Nemo is like the one Pixar movie I've seen the most out of all of them. Like this was on repeat when I was a kid, and like when I would go visit my grandparents, we'd all watch Finding Nemo. And it's just like a classic feel-good adventure story. I mean, it looks really nice. I like all the fish designs. It's very memeable for the modern crowd. And it's just like a fun story.
It's like a fun adventure movie, you know.
Yeah.
And Ellen DeGeneres, of course, being your favorite actress.
I think she's still canceled. I don't know if we're really allowed to mention her.
Is she canceled still?
Huh?
Probably.
Oh, okay. I haven't kept up to date on it. I kind of just saw it.
I don't know if there's an update. I know people don't. I know she's like bullying her interns or something.
Yeah, it was something like that, which is a shame. But, oh well.
What are you gonna do? I guess.
Yeah, freaking Dory, man. Tell you what. Yeah, no,
I will say, Finding Dory, not up there.
Yeah.
I wasn't too big of a fan.
I think Finding Dory had a really good plot structure. I think the execution of it was not as good as some of their other
went
movies.
like a little off the handles, to be honest.
Like I felt like they really just tried to say, "Hey, remember all this stuff from Finding Nemo? Let's throw that back in here."
Yeah, I agree.
Like honestly, they could have.
Finding Dory.
How old is Finding Dory at this point? Is it 2 years now?
2 or
2?
3.
No, it's more
It's
than
like 4 or
2.
5.
Yeah, it's like 4 or 5.
What?
That came out. I'm pretty sure that came out like
Yeah, that
end
was
of high school or early college.
No.
Yeah, that was our
way.
end of high school.
Yeah.
That was literally the end of high school.
Yeah. Yeah, Matt, we're old, man. Yo, we're old.
No, I refuse to be old.
But Matt, keep talking about it. So like finding.
It did. Oh man, 2016. Jesus
Yeah.
Yeah.
Christ.
Yeah, man, that was.
No,
That was
I
like
mean,
going into
I
college.
think the cool thing that they did was like they did the whole like their parents set out all these stones, but I think something they could have done was like, you know, as they're adventuring through the ocean, like have random lines of stones in the background. Maybe they did. I just didn't notice it after my second time going through it, but it would have been cool if like just as little Easter eggs that they literally like traverse the whole ocean hoping eventually she'll remember to follow those stones home or something.
Yeah, I think that
I haven't seen the movie more than once.
I think the problem with like Finding Dory and like Incredibles 2 is they were just trying to be like a lot of callbacks to the original movie just to kind of get that like hook in.
Yeah.
But
Incredibles 2 had more flaws than that, I think.
they each had more flaws, but I think that was like the biggest is like what those reboots try to do.
Incredibles 2 was good until the last half of it.
I would have been more fine with Incredibles 2 if it came out like 15 years ago. Like,
Yeah.
like if it came out like 3 years after Incredibles 1, like I would have been fine with it. Like it just would have been like an okay movie. But
It was
how long-
also
we had to wait what, like 12 years for Incredibles
14.
2? And it was like super
14
mid.
years. Well, a little bit under 14 years.
Like
but yeah.
that's what disappointed me the most.
Yeah, no, I think that was also during that small point in time where, because even like the last Toy Story was in 2010, and then all of a sudden they were like, "Hey, let's have another Toy Story," in 2019. I get that it's like, hey, as people grew up, and it literally was as people grew up, because they kind of did it every 10 years. But it was like this weird point in time where they were really trying to, like, Disney was really trying to capitalize on people's nostalgia versus capture them in a new story and plot. I don't know how well it worked. I mean, Disney knows probably more about their metrics than I do, but I feel like a lot more people were looking for something original than they were nostalgia. But just because they supplied us with nostalgia, that's what we enjoyed.
Right. But yeah, Matt, Finding Nemo being your number 4.
You know it.
Right. Colin, is Finding Nemo your number 4?
Finding Nemo is not my number 4. My number 4 is The Incredibles.
Really?
As a kid, I really enjoyed The Incredibles. I still do enjoy the original Incredibles. I think it's fantastic. I think it's fun adventure. I think they execute a lot of things really well. They don't take a sad moment or a harsh moment or an anger moment and mix it in and do the whole Thor Ragnarok thing that they've been doing a lot, which is, hey, let's take this really sad moment, and soon as you start to feel bad, let's just smack you with a joke. Like, I think they did a really good job at controlling how they did everything.
Yeah, just throughout the movie, it was just constant. It was just a good pacing of everything.
Yeah, like they did a really good job at making sure that you felt the emotion that you were supposed to feel in that point in time. I also really enjoyed the the score of it, I guess. Like, it was a very good soundtrack that I don't think had the wrong effect. I think they did it well. I think they just matched music and so forth to every scene properly.
Yeah, and if someone were to play something from The Incredibles, like some of the tracks or anything, it's like an instant recognizable movie.
Yeah, I think
it recognize where it's coming from. What, Matt?
The theme is a banger.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think the coolest thing that, like, I think they need to get into soon, like, they need to maybe capitalize on an Incredibles 3 and go back to whenever I can't think of his name. Whenever Bob, right? Bob, yeah, Bob. Whenever Bob was, in his prime and he was wearing the blue suit still. Because I think that would be a lot of fun. I really like that little flashback because, like, it felt like a really cool superhero moment with the flashback. And then maybe they need to do a little short series with Edna, if I'm being honest with you, just like all the superheroes that she screws with, just like have a little short series with her.
I think that would be a good, like, Disney Plus original. Really, something they could just kind of at least, like, just kind of give us, like, in the meantime, before maybe they're just cooking something else up,
Yeah, I mean, it could be a quick, like, 3-episode, 10 minutes each kind of thing. It would just be fun, I think.
Well, they've done, like, some stuff like that for Toy Story and a couple other Pixar movies, like, just little animated shorts.
Yeah, they do little shorts.
I think they had a couple with Gravity Falls. I'm not sure if those are Disney Plus exclusives.
Well, Gravity Falls started off as, like, a commercial show. Like, they would show just like a quick little snippet during the commercial, and then eventually, like, it became what it was because he wrote it.
right. But yeah, that's a great pick, Colin. I'd say. I mean, I'm sure it's a movie we'll be talking about later too. But my number 4, Colin, you kind of called it earlier when I said it about Matt's number 5.
Yeah.
My number 4 is Up. Originally, it was. I kind of went back and forth it a lot. Like, it went from number 4 to 3 to 2, and then back down to 4 after I thought about it more. But yeah, no, I love the movie Up. I like the art style of the movie, the first little bit of it, how it just really just makes you invested in the movie. As a little kid, I'm just sitting there just bawling my eyes out because that was just the saddest thing I've ever witnessed in my entire life. I'm pretty sure there's been like 2 to 3 hour movies that have tried to make me care about the main couple, and the first 10 minutes of Up, you're already like invested in these people, and then you're already just crying and super sad, like compared to the other movies.
Yeah, I
yeah.
definitely like the villain in Up. Not necessarily just because like, oh wow, he's a great villain. I think I just like his like layer and like his equipment and his stuff. Like the theme of him, I really like. Like the fact that he just has a giant blimp of evil is kind of cool.
Just compared to just the dude's house with like 100,000 balloons.
Yeah, I think the villain's fun. I think they did a good job making him unique.
It's overall just a good, fun adventure movie. Just like with that quest.
I guess it wouldn't be right to call him a villain. The antagonist, I guess.
The person that we're booing for.
Yeah.
Ooh, you stink.
Boo. But yeah, I don't know. I just liked the kind of the relationship that he had, because he kind of lost everything in the beginning of the movie, and then he kind of just has to relearn to love throughout the movie, and I think that's just really touching throughout it. But yeah, that's my number 4. Zach, what are we looking at? What's your number 4?
My number 4 is Monsters University.
Monsters
University. All right.
Interesting.
Tell us about it.
I think it just does a really good job of like kind of showing how Sully and Mike meet. I think that it kind of captures that like I'm going to college feeling and being in college. I know like whenever I believe we all watched it, or at least it was me, you, Ron, and I think it was either Matt or Tyler.
It was Tyler. The first time I saw it was at my house.
I saw it with you guys.
You saw it?
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah, you didn't go to Eaton Park with us after. That's what happened, because we were at my house watching it for my birthday party, and then we went to Eaton Park after for like 8 hours.
Yeah, it was just it was a good time. It kind of came out. I forget what date it came out, but it came out right when we were in high school, like having to think about college.
Right before our senior year.
Yeah, and then actually it took me a while to see it, so I might have saw it during my senior year. But I think it's it's a lot of fun. It kind of really explains the relationship that Sully and Mike kind of develop and why they're so close. You kind of in Monsters Inc. I feel like you think that the relationship was very like, oh, they met at work, or even if they knew each other before, they were just always friends. I think it's cool to see that like dynamic, and it gives you a deeper insight on like the
lore.
I guess culture, the culture,
The lore of the
and
Monster
society
Universe.
of the monsters, like that. You could actually go to school for scaring, and it's like a really big deal if that's what you're doing. Like, I mean, I feel like in the first Monsters Inc., like it kind of shows like scarers as that like higher social status type of person, but almost like I don't know how to explain it, but it's almost like it shows them as that type of person. But I think after seeing it in like Monsters University, it kind of solidified that, oh, like a scarer is like basically if a football player did like a public service, like that kind of like if those two fields were able to mix, and that kind of notoriety. So like going to like how prestigious Scare School is and like all kinds of stuff like that. I like that aspect, and the games were really fun to watch, like the different types of challenges and all that. It's a really good feel good movie.
No, I definitely think Monsters University did like a really good job at like I think Monsters Inc. Monsters Inc. obviously had its own plot and had to go over its own stuff, so it didn't go over like a ton of world building. So like Monsters University really like built the world up a little bit more, because like you were able to see outside of the scare house, like the building for scaring children, because everything in Monsters Inc. happens pretty much in that building or through a door. So for a lot of Monsters Inc., you kind of sit there and go, oh, okay, like what else is there? And then you're able to see in Monsters U like what else monsters do and what else monsters are capable of doing and like stuff like that, which I thought was really cool.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought it opened the world up really nicely.
It's definitely one of the funnier movies in the Pixar discography, I think.
Yeah, and
yeah.
you know, I think in like the first Monsters Inc., there was like this not stiffness, but it seemed like such high stakes. You know, it like had conspiracy in it. It had, you know, them traveling and like getting banished and basically being like kind of screwed in the sense that like they're never gonna go back home again, and like they're trying to save this girl, and they discover that laughter is like more powerful and scaring, and like all this stuff is going on. Like honestly, kind of a lot more. I feel like when you go back older and watch it, you don't really appreciate the everything that's necessarily happening. And I like how Monsters University kind of goes in the opposite direction, where there's no conspiracies, there's no big, you know, crazy thing that's going on, right?
Yeah.
I think that's how a lot of like the Pixar movies and especially Marvel movies kind of started to be. Was they kind of just didn't take the movie itself too seriously. It's just more fun and funny, you know. And I think Monsters University is like a good example of that.
I think Monsters University was supposed to be a feel-good movie. I think it was so like you have, for instance, Toy Story 4 and Toy Story 3, which is like, hey, you know, we all grew up kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Where Monsters University was kind of like, hey, it's okay to grow up. Like, let's show you the cool things that happen. So I think it was supposed to be a feel-good movie, and like, yeah, there was a little bit of stress, but I think for the most part, it was all supposed to happen and be happy and like be like that. Woo, this is so much fun. Like, for instance, look at how much fun college is. Woo,
It's kind of like a
college.
coming of age story of sorts.
Yeah, kind
Without
of.
like the drama, the teenage drama. Well, as much of it as much as you can put in a Pixar movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't put everything that happens in college in a Pixar movie, so. But yeah, no, I mean it's a good pick. I don't know. I didn't put Monsters University in my.
Honestly, the only thing that they should have really captured is how absolutely like moronic professors and lecturers are in college, because like not a single one ever knows exactly what they're talking about. So like they should have definitely had at least one professor in there that was just a complete moron, that was a like not necessarily a main character, but like a helper character, because
Or just like the lone you laugh at.
yeah, because I mean like everybody in college has had at least one teacher. If you're me, you just get unlucky and it's every single one of your teachers who it almost feels like they only know a little bit more than you, in a sense of like their course is simple, and then they just structure their course to be difficult by saying, "Oh, the final's just worth 80% of your grade now." And it's like, why does that even make sense?
Yeah, they probably could have done that. I mean, you know, I think maybe if the Pixar makes another college movie, you could probably have like that kind of professor you just laugh at. What were you saying, Zach?
Nothing. Never mind.
I was just making a comment that, you know, college, and then the way they made college look.
Yeah.
I feel like you're kind of not. I'm not even gonna say in the minority. I feel like your college experience with professors is vastly different than mine.
Yeah, and mine too. Honestly, only
Yeah,
like
I
some
think
of
I
my
just got
random
very
classes
unlucky.
that I've had. Yeah.
I mean, I've had a few, but you know,
Yeah.
not the majority.
I'd say it's a good pick though overall. So I think a lot of people listening would agree to it, especially if they are in college or watched it when they were about to go to college or anything too, or watched it post and kind of reconnected with that little college life. But to shift it back over to Matt, what's your number 3, bud?
For my number 3, I have Monsters. Wait for it. Inc. The first one.
Now, Matt, this is
Okay.
another movie I'm going to ask you. Do you prefer the English or the German version?
I didn't watch that in German.
What about the Italian version though?
I prefer the Chinese version. The one that's in
Yeah,
Mandarin.
all right.
Tell us
I'm a
why
connoisseur.
you chose Monsters Inc.
Mostly for the reasons we just talked about, like I like the big like conspiracy plot, and it's like very like the stakes are so high, so it's I think a lot more exciting than a lot of the other movies in the Pixar canon.
Kind of like
Just
that
because the
Incredibles
stakes are
feel.
so high. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I really like that. That's style of movie that they make. And I really love the character designs too. I think all the they do a good job making all the monsters very unique and colorful and fun. Especially I forget what the purple lizard's name is. He's probably my favorite monster.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, Randall. Yeah, Randall's probably my favorite out of all of them. I really like his design and his abilities.
My favorite is it finished on Matt?
No, go ahead. Say what you want to say.
My favorite running joke throughout Monsters Inc. and University is the whenever Mike Wazowski is like on the cover of like a magazine or something, he's always covered over.
He's always blurred out.
Yeah, it's blurred out or just there's like a stamp over top of it.
I think it's blocked in like all the promotional material too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of just kept that going.
It's just hilarious. Not to mention like the slug lady who works the desk.
Oh yeah.
Who always gives Mike crap. Like she's hilarious.
Didn't he like flirt with her a lot in the movie, or is that just more like
he tried to, but she like wasn't having it. Like Mike Wazowski. Like just every fucking bitchy secretary rolled up into one. I love Monsters Inc. It's a great watch for sure.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's a great pick too. I think we've all seen it just a multitude of times.
I think like everyone in America has seen it.
Yeah, it's kind of impressive if you haven't.
Honestly. Yeah, you definitely have to see it.
Especially just with Disney Plus now.
Oh yeah. No, there's almost no excuse not to see it. It's definitely like the Bomb Squad moment. That's fantastic.
Oh yeah, that's amazing.
Doesn't get much better than the Bomb Squad moment. Jeez, I can't speak today.
But yeah, man, I'd say it's a great number 3. Colin, what's your number 3?
Colin and his number 3. Oh boy. My number 3 is Cars.
Really? First
one, right? Yeah, the first one. I really enjoyed Cars. I thought that it had such a uniqueness to it because obviously, I mean, it's talking cars, but like the way that they made it work was like very unique and it worked. Like it made sense for some reason. I don't know, but I just really enjoyed it. Plus, I've always really been into cars, so like that kind of helped. There's like a lot of aspects to it that was just very fun. I wasn't ever really into like the NASCAR and stuff, but I think that's kind of what made Cars cool is that it like kind of pulled out of that almost immediately and goes into like just this own little world, and like Mater's fantastic. He's almost one of my favorite Pixar characters is Mater.
Did you ever watch his shorts? I think Disney did that.
No, all the time.
His shorts are hilarious.
Whenever he gets abducted by aliens, that's the best one.
Did they run those between commercials, or is that just like
they ran those between commercials.
Okay, I couldn't remember how they did it, but I remember just seeing on Disney Channel before.
I think he had like one actual like episode length short, but don't quote me. I might just be remembering it as a child.
Yeah, Cars is a great movie. I'm not a fan of 2 and 3 though. To be perfectly honest, I think it kind of.
I've never seen 3. 2 I did not like.
I think 3 was fun. I think 3 like gave a lot of like. It definitely covered like a whole different aspect of like the Cars universe and the car lore and what makes up Cars. So I thought it was fun. 2 was like all right, but 3 was definitely like better than 2.
Yeah, but at least for the first one, I can definitely agree. I forget like what aspects of the movie I did like really like. I think it was just the like the what's it called? The underdog story, in the sense of just Lightning McQueen going up against like the best racers in the world.
Yeah, and does like a little I don't even know what to call it. I guess like a Rocky training moment.
Yeah, I think a lot of those underdog movies have to have a Rocky training moment.
I think the most memorable thing is like whenever he flies off the cliff like 100 times or like slams into a million cactuses or whatever, and like finally he decides to listen to the old man who says turn into it, don't turn, or yeah. I don't remember exactly what he says, but basically he
right,
says
turn
turn
right,
your wheel right while you're turning left.
Yeah, I can agree with the cars. Yeah,
Whenever people bring up NASCAR, I give the South Park episode where Cartman becomes a NASCAR racer.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
Pops up in my head.
honestly,
No, that little strip of South Park was fantastic. That little because they just said, you know what, no holds bar, take advantage of everything. We're just gonna have Cartman do a bunch of stupid stuff.
honestly, I think
The
NASCAR
best joke, arguably in the Pixar cinema, is when Lightning says something about the piston cup, and Mater spits his oil out and goes, "He did what in his cup?"
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just those little jokes for adults that kind of when you just rewatch it, it just has like that you just realize like how adults can actually watch through like some of the kids' movies too. Like they're not only made for kids, they're made for adults too.
I can definitely go back and watch Cars as an adult and just enjoy it the same. Probably even more since there's more adult jokes in it now that I also get.
But yeah, Colin, I would agree with number 3. At least I can understand why it's on your list. But my number 3 is Finding Nemo, a movie we already talked about. But I just like the adventure story of it pretty much. It's mostly why I went back to it a lot. I, as well as Matt, have watched the German version of the movie a lot as well. Just through school and everything. But it's hard for me to watch the movie again though, if I'm being perfectly honest. The main reason it's on my list just because I enjoyed it so much, and I didn't want to not have it on the list because I've seen it so many times at this point in my life. But I think it deserved the number 3 spot at the very least. Because I don't know if I can watch it again. I'm not sure about you guys. I think it's just been one too many. I think I'd have to watch it with like a little niece or a nephew or someone who's watching it for their first time.
I mean, I probably could, but
Am I seeking out Finding Nemo to watch? No, not particularly.
Yeah, no, I don't. I think honestly, if you're looking for an underwater tale, Shark Tales is probably better.
I love me some Shark Tales, honestly. But I think I would enjoy that movie probably more just because I haven't seen it as much. I think I've only seen it like once or twice in my life.
No, it's Shark Tale. It's not Shark Tales. It's Shark Tale.
Oh,
the one with Will
Smith.
But yeah, no, Shark Tale is. I think if you're looking for that underwater story, Shark Tale just is better.
Style.
But yeah, I mean, we already talked about Finding Nemo a lot. But that's why I put it on my number 3. Zach, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is the Toy Story 2.
Ooh,
he says 5.
Toy Story 5.
Toy Story 1.5.
This one is when Andy gets his first job.
Toy Story 2. I really like how it kind of comes out of the gate with like the relationship of Buzz and Woody, rather than having to, like in the first movie, I feel like half the movie is Buzz and Woody hating each other and fighting and arguing, and then that I feel like Toy Story 2, like in the opening scene, it's very much like they are both working as a unit to like get everything down and cover everything and make sure everybody's good. I like that aspect of it, but then once you kind of get more, I think it gets a little deeper, I think, in the way of like, I think Toy Story 2 is the first Toy Story that like really touches on like the people grow up, with like Jesse's whole plot line, and Woody kind of not really wanting to accept that could happen to him, and then the idea that like would Woody have a better life if he stayed there, in, like being looked at and rather than being played with and everything. Also the mall or the shopping center scene is amazing, just like with Pig and with Ham and Mr. Potato Head driving around in the car. They see the Barbie aisle. Buzz fighting himself and like getting locked in the box. I think that's awesome. Yeah, I really like that movie. Then like the whole end sequence with the airport and like Zurg coming in. I think it does like a lot of stuff without feeling like it does a lot of stuff. And it just kind of expands on what was already on the foundation that was already what Toy Story kind of set up for it.
I mean,
Yeah,
I can agree with that.
I enjoyed the Zurg little spotlight because, well, I'm a big Buzz Lightyear fan, so like that was a lot of fun in that movie, seeing like Zurg be the angry aggressor, the antagonist, the villain.
Yeah, I think after like the first Toy Story movie, Woody has kind of always had that like inner conflict of would he be happy whenever he's just not played with, because that's a big part of Toy Story 4. Everything too is problem with like not being able to like let go of Andy and just being like the favorite and everything, and just having to deal with people kind of growing up. That's kind of like the Toy Story message, like the overall message.
Well, Toy Story 3 was dealing with growing up. 4 was more of like him not being the toy.
I mean, right, but it was just, him just kind of being, people like still some people can outgrow like Woody, you know what I mean? Like Andy was just outgrowing Woody. It's still like kind of just growing up, just like in a different mindset, I guess, Yeah. Because it was just, he had his new owner, and then Forky was like the person, he wasn't a fan of Forky, and then everything else.
Right.
By the way, those Forky little miniseries it's pretty funny. I watched a little bit of them. Just a few of them. I think there's only a couple, but I was just bored on Disney Plus and just watched it. Highly recommend it if you guys haven't. But yeah, is there anything else you wanted to say about Toy Story 2, Zach?
Probably about it.
Oh. Matt, number 2.
Number 2 is The Incredibles.
Okay.
What is there to say about The Incredibles that hasn't already been said? I mean, it's a fun adventure movie. And I like it a lot more than the other Pixar's because of the darker tone that it has and how it's like more realistic, I guess. Like no one likes the superheroes because they cause all this collateral damage, so they have to like go into hiding and try and live normal lives. I think that's a pretty cool aspect of the movie.
Which is something that doesn't really get too much focus on in Marvel and DC movies.
Sure. And like all like the Edna stuff is hilarious. Like she's amazing. And like the whole arc with just like the kids trying like discovering who they are, I think is really fun. And it's just an awesome movie overall, I think.
Yeah, I think The Incredibles is probably the first superhero-esque form of entertainment that like kind of touched on the idea of superheroes and like collateral damage. Like I feel like now you see all kinds of stuff with it, like with The Boys.
Yeah, there's a whole series based around that now.
Yeah, like with DC, like for a while, like one of the things that like DC was so like, oh, like everybody is gonna die
if
they
got
like
so much
Superman gets in a fight in the city.
They made sure to write those in.
Yeah, like so I feel like The Incredibles was truly the first of its kind to highlight that, because I remember watching it when I was a kid and thinking, oh, like, well, these people are stupid, but they're superheroes. Like, why are they mad at the superheroes? Not at a young age being able to understand the complexities of lawsuits and
like
injury.
the guy who jumps off the building and he doesn't want to be saved, and then he sues Mr. Incredible. Like that's shit, dude.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it really does something cool with that. And I love the line, like, if everybody's super, nobody is. I think that's a really cool line that can be applicable to
situations. Also, the skit with the babysitter and the FBI agent at the end about talking about Jack.
Oh yeah. No, fantastic. That skit at the end is perfect.
Yeah, that's really good. Super Suit obviously is awesome.
Where's my super suit?
The callback in Incredibles 2 just is the thing that just set the audience to like
You
an
know it had to be
uproar.
in there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's really cool. You get to see that cool jungle world.
The
You
fight scene with
see,
all of them is so fun.
yeah, it like definitely like pays off. But yeah,
Did any of
good
you ever
vibes.
play the movie video game?
I did. And
I did.
Forget if I actually ever ended up beating it or not.
I love that game. Matt, I heard you say you did call, but Matt, did you?
I did not.
Did not. Oh man, that was a good a nice GameCube game I would play whenever I would go over to my cousin's house. You just play.
GameCube.
Yeah, man. They had the GameCube. It was awesome.
Same. That shit on PS2.
But yeah, it was that was a great game. It kind of just made me enjoy the series more as a whole, like just being able to interact like with the movie still, and then have those like movie scenes in it and everything.
Like Incredibles for me is like Incredibles and my number one are so far above the rest Pixar. Like it's not close. Like it might be ordered on my list, but the gap I think between my like the rest of the Pixar movies and Incredibles my number one is humongous.
That's fair. That's kind of a little bit on how my list is too. Because I think at least like with my top 3, maybe my top 2 is just the ones I can go back and watch. I think anytime of my life.
Honestly, I think my number one definitely is the same way. I think it's unparalleled to the rest of my list as well.
We'll call it. Would you like to prelude that with your number 2?
With my number 2, I went with Monsters Inc.
Okay.
Monsters Inc. is fantastic. It's obviously number 2 on my list, but I think my number 2 is definitely like if we talked about like a graph growing, we're talking Cars and below is probably logarithmic. Monsters Inc. is linear, and then my number 1 is just exponential or even factorial. Like I truly think Monsters Inc. is one of the better movies Pixar has put out. I mean, who wouldn't want a door from Monsters Inc.? Like that's so freaking cool. All of Monsters Inc. Like every time you watch a Pixar, it's very unique. But what makes Monsters Inc. so much more unique is that they had to create an entire world that monsters lived in. It didn't feel like it was just our world with a little bit of magic in it. Like it was so much fun to watch it, and they captured and did so much just in the factory, I guess is what I should call it. The factory that it is. Sure, they went to like a few places, like they go to the top of whatever Alps and meet the Yeti, and then they go to a cabana. I don't know what to call it, but they go to a random spot in the cabana kind of location. They go to a random spot, but like all of this stuff is like done, and it feels like it's such a big world, even though it's in this tiny little factory. And I think that's what they accomplished so well on it. I like the Boo and Sully dynamic. I think that's fantastic, especially after seeing like Monsters U. Like it makes that even a better dynamic. I don't know. It's
God,
a
I want to cut
fan.
you off in your thought.
I always talk about like how my favorite things are usually about an adventure, and this is genuinely a really good adventure that like isn't really about it doesn't feel like it's necessarily a act of God ending. It feels a lot more like, oh, okay, like they used this problem solving and they were able to get to where they needed to be kind of ending. And I really enjoy that. Like there was a lot of adventure, whether it was like through a character's development or whether it was through the actual plot line. There was so much adventure in it that I really enjoyed.
And I think with the way that like the story of Monsters Inc. was watching it as a kid, I think that can like kind of open your eyes to like different types of movies too, because there is the whole like conspiracy part of it, which you might look at other genres too, like as a kid, and just kind of find that interest with those movies, kind of like Monsters Inc. Or just the simple like fun animated movies or adventure movies that can kind of take control over your interest a bit. If you did really enjoy Monsters Inc., I think it's a very diverse genre movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean they did a lot of really cool stuff. Like again, like I talk about the bomb squad thing. Like to them, a sock from a child's room is tainted, and like the guy had to wear a cone around him, and they had to shave him down and like bathe him and all that stuff. Like it's this very creative, dynamic world that like you can see has its own rules in it, where like a lot of these other things, like even cars follows a lot of the same rules that our world does, where Monsters Inc. has its own culture and society and rules, where Cars, it feels very parallel to ours. So
Well, I think also from another standpoint, you can also draw a lot of conclusions and parallels. It's like, is the Scream industry like the oil industry? How, the oil industry has been accused of doing certain things or like setting up certain aspects so that way people are still dependable on oil because they're making a lot of money. Was there a large, like, did they discover, like, so like was the whole sock thing of like a child, like did they invent the idea that you can't touch children so that way they cultivated this fear in their society of children, like purposefully, or were they truly afraid of children because they knew that laughter or maybe some other type of way of interacting with these children actually caused a more cost-effective and efficient form of energy, but wasn't as profitable as the fear type of energy? So was that a whole conspiracy? Well, I mean, conspiracy, of course, but like, was that purposeful in that, or was that just kind of like a throwaway thing that they did?
I think that's something that you're just pulling out of it. The whole thing was kind of about getting over your fears as a child. Even the writer talked about that in like one of his seminars. I don't think there was any real commentary on the oil industry. I think it was just a fun way of explaining like why monsters are coming into your closet as a kid. And then showing that monsters are scared of children because they think that children are the monsters as well. So like both of them think that each other is monsters, and they're, these terrifying, horrible things, but in the end, like they both figured out that like they're not so different.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's at least I wouldn't say it's a bad observation, like from Zach. I know that's not what you were saying, but I mean, it's definitely something that one could just draw some parallels to.
I guess it just kind of felt like I was back in like an English class, and it felt like he was kind of digging a little deeper than what was intended.
I don't know. I mean, that's kind of what I see now whenever I watch it.
But yeah, Colin, number 2, for Monsters Inc. I can agree with. I don't know if we're really done talking about it though. It's definitely
okay. Apparently, Ron has it as number 1. Apparently, Ron has it as his number 1.
Oh no.
If he's making those bold claims.
No. My number 2 is The Incredibles. Shout out to Matt for putting it his number 2.
Go.
It went back and forth a lot between that and my number 1 though. I don't know. I think Incredibles was only superhero movie I watched when I was that young. Like never like the old like Batman movies or any of like the old DC movies or anything. It was like my introduction to like the hero world. But yeah, I mean, we already talked about it a lot. I don't know what else there really is to say that hasn't been already said. But honestly, Colin, ever since you brought up the there should be an Etna miniseries, I've been thinking about that a lot during this recording.
Oh yeah, I think it'd be so much fun, because I think they did like a little short, and I'm talking like a minute commercial short where like they don't show the superhero, but they just kind of show Etna doing something. But like I think they could make it a little bit better if they just did Etna like talking to these superheroes and like the superheroes like coming in being like, I need a new suit because I have to go fight again. Like, imagine like a superhero coming in, losing his suit to a fight, having to like come in, get a new suit, and then run back out, and like there's a fight going on in their front lawn or something, you know?
As long as you're not wearing any capes, Colin. No capes.
Yeah, no capes.
No capes. No capes.
We've learned our lessons from capes.
Yeah, but I'm blanking on the villain's name for some reason. Syndrome. I kind of liked that.
Syndrome.
I liked the storyline that was like presented there, and like his motive behind everything. But yeah, no, I know we already talked about it a lot, and a lot that's already been said is stuff I agree with, like from Matt and Colin especially. But yeah, Incredibles, my number 2. Zach, where are you? What's your number 2 seating?
My number 2 seating is going to be The Incredibles as well.
Oh, perfect. Tell us why.
For everything we've kind of already talked about. Yeah, it's just a feel-good movie. It's definitely like again, like these past like kids movies we've been talking about. Like another one, like my dad and I watch. Like he likes it to the point where like he wanted to see Incredibles 2 whenever it came out. So yeah, it's just a really good movie for previous reasons that I've already kind of said. But yeah, soundtrack is amazing. It's really good.
All right, Matt, you are about to lead us into the number 1 spots. Bum.
Don't you know?
What's your number 1?
My number
overall
1 is
Pixar
Toy
movie?
Story. Wait for it. 3.
5.
Really, Matt, the 3rd?
Toy Story 6 was like a close
6?
second.
Yeah, Toy Story 6 is
Toy Story 3
is
we haven't
my
even hit
favorite,
5.
without a shadow of a doubt.
It definitely had the most like emotional part of
Yeah,
the
I
movie.
love the emotional part of it. I love like the theme of growing up. And,
I definitely think
how that changes.
like Toy Story 3, because of it being, I would say like there was a big jump in technology right around that time where they were able to accomplish so much more. Like
Yeah,
a big
it
problem with
getting
Monsters
better.
Inc., for instance, was animation. They couldn't do a lot of stuff they wanted to do just because like the animation was rough. So like Toy Story 3 came out and they could do so much more, and I think it made it feel so much better with Toy Story 3.
It's kind of like that jump with CGI, like from the first like Jurassic Park to like, you know, what would have came out 15 years later.
Yeah.
And whatnot, you know? Just that crazy leap of just technology. But Matt, talk about why Toy Story 3 specifically.
Yeah, I love the villain. I think Lotso is a fantastic antagonist to the main cast. I'm a big fan of Tim Allen and what's the other guy's name? I can't think of it right now. My mind.
Tom Hanks.
Yeah, Tom Hanks. I had like a brain fart there. I love both of those guys. I think they're fantastic actors. I mean, it's just like a feel good, fun. It still has like the adventure aspect of all the Toy Story films, where like you have the big elaborate escape scene, which is really fun, and then like the garbage disposal thing at the end where the aliens have to save them with the giant claw, and then like the emotional part at the end where Andy has to leave his behind.
The claw.
It's just I love everything about Toy Story 3.
Yeah.
Like it's just perfect for me.
Good. It's definitely a good number 1 spot, Matt, I would say. Wink. Colin, what's your number 1?
So my number 1, I think, is probably one of Pixar's best movies.
You don't say.
I think the biggest problem with it was it came out during the COVID outbreak.
Oh no
And
shit.
it's
Goddamn.
Outward or Onward. I don't know why I said Outward. Onward.
Really?
Onward is fantastic. The music is so on point. The animation is phenomenal. I think it does a really cool job at like bridging like the mythical world and how we see it with as if it was a real world, and it just grew up. Like it evolved, I should say. like you have the legendary chimera, or was she a griffin? Was it a griffin? It was a griffin. Manticore. So you have the legendary manticore that like grants all these wishes to all the adventurers back, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. But in the case of modern day, she just owns she sent them on quests and, gave them powers and blah, 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 and even defeated tons and tons of questing adventurers and stuff. So, like, she's this legendary creature in a sense. And now she just manages the Manticore House, which is, like, your local restaurant that's just themed after her. So, like, now people come and they go on the quest, and it's just this little stupid puzzle on the back of like those paper trays. I don't know what to call them. The paper placemats that they put down, and that's the adventure that you go on, is solving the puzzle there. And I don't know. I think it's really cool that they turned like how you would see your fantasy book that you would read, like I don't know. What's the one that we always criticize? I'm drawing a blank on it right now.
What kind of
like
movie?
Hobbit and all that.
Yeah.
Like it's cool to see that, and then all of a sudden be like, okay, now let's pretend that they're in 2020.
Yeah.
In like our version of 2020.
Yeah, that movie I haven't seen. Honestly, I kind of forgot it even came out.
I mean, it got fantastic reviews. The only problem was it came out literally at the beginning of the outbreak, so everything shut down and it made like almost no money.
Is it on Disney Plus? I would assume so.
Yeah,
it is.
Okay, I figured that would be their smart thing. Do you have to pay for it on Disney Plus?
No.
Okay. I mean, I didn't know if they I mean, maybe when it first came out, like how they treated like Mulan and stuff, but
that Premiere Access wasn't a thing until Mulan came out.
Yeah.
Gotcha. But I might have to.
I think it's also because this movie was capable of launching in theaters where the other ones weren't. Because it literally, like,
True.
I think it came out like March 16th or something. So literally, like, it came out. I remember saying to my significant other, and I said, we need to go see this. And then the next week, everything shut down. So,
it was just kind of a horrible timing.
Yeah, like it was horrible timing for an absolutely fantastic movie. The adventure they go on is like if you were in, The Hobbit, but now you had a car and a highway to get there. And the cool thing is like they had this like version of Magic / D&D put into like one little thing. And the older brother, who is Chris Pratt, he's constantly sitting.
Tom Holland. I think.
He's constantly sitting there quoting the D&D game because it's technically based off of what used to be. It's just what happened was this world evolved past magic because it discovered science was easier and more people could use it. So they evolved to deal with science, and then more people decided to stop going and being like a wizard's apprentice and became scientists. So wizardry was kind of a thing of the past. And it's really cool to like still see all the things that people did back then is still there. And the ending is really good. I'm not going to spoil it since it's fairly new and not a whole lot of people have seen it just because of the outbreak.
What was the movie called one more time? Onward?
It's their newest movie.
Okay.
They have a new one coming out in December. It's like Soul or like, yeah, I think it's Soul. But I don't know if that one looks fantastic. I think it looks a little bit like a normal story.
Yeah, I mean, I loved Onward. I thought it was really good. It didn't make my list because I actually just rewatched it a little bit ago. It didn't make my list just because I felt like it didn't like do necessarily what I wanted it to do. Like I feel like how Colin said, it did introduce a lot of these things. It had a very interesting take on like the idea of like magic doesn't exist anymore because it's easier to get electricity in your house, just flip a light switch, turn a light, rather than spend years learning how to cast a light spell. I thought that was cool. I think I would have preferred more if it had more scenes like the Manticore scene, like how it has like that like old but like it's new and like this is how it's kind of happened now.
Well, the fairies turned into biker gangs.
Yeah, like I don't mean like that. Like just as like I mean more of like direct like, oh, we're going to this mythical place, but now the more mythical places are like changing like in this way. I think I wanted more of that from like the Manticore, and like I feel like the bit where it was actually like the, oh, we're in the old now, it was so short, it like didn't last. I feel like almost the majority of the movie is them driving on the highway.
I mean, they don't really spend much time on the highway. A lot of it is them arguing over, like, do we take the highway or do we take the old adventurer's way? And they run into a bunch of troubles as they're trying to determine that, like, the fairies get angry at them and chase them down throughout the movie. And you have to run into the Manticore, and they took like the back road to get to the Manticore. Like, his brother kept saying, oh, let's take the long way, and they take the long way to the Manticore's lair, and they come up to this house and it looks all scary, but literally if they would have came the other way, in the front is the sign that says the Manticore's lair diner or whatever it said.
Right, no, and I think I just would have preferred, because like realistically, once they start their quest, they do go to the Manticore. I thought that was pretty cool to see. Then they have the altercation with the Pixies, and I was like, like whatever. Like, it really didn't do anything for me. Then they argue, have the thing with the cops, and then it's like them following the Ravens. I just felt like it almost felt a bit rushed to me, and I think it had the bones and arguably like a good chunk of meat on it of what I wanted. And it did, like, I'm happy with the movie. I think it did a lot, and I was really debating putting it on my list. But I just made an honorable mention because of those reasons at the end of the day.
See, I thought the pacing was perfectly fine. I definitely felt like this was like one of those. This was a movie that also touched on a new topic, which was like, what is it like to grow up without, your father, or in this case, just a parent? And,
I mean, yeah, mom, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but like their father went missing.
He died. He didn't go missing.
Yeah, but like in a sense, like he went missing and then he died, and then they never saw him. Or well, at least the youngest never saw him. The older brother who plays Chris Pratt, he got to see him, until he was like 3 years old, and he only has those small memories of his father and stuff. And then it was like, growing up without a dad, and then finally getting, the father figure back, I think was a completely different take on everything they've covered so far. It definitely was a whole new story and plot device, and I don't know. It's just so much more unique than a lot of the others, especially since a lot of the others are sequels. This one, because it has a new look on things, I think it was fantastic since they came up with something completely original.
Yeah, and I will say I do like how, well, I guess if we're not spoiling things, I can't really say that, but I like how in the end it kind of, the main character just, it's, to put it vaguely and not to go too in depth, he discovers he always had what he needed. And if you watch the movie, I'm sure you'll understand what I mean by that.
Yeah.
But I like the way they kind of, it's the way they say it, not necessarily that they say that.
I also think it's kind of cool that, like, in a way, they kind of allude to the fact that, like, I don't remember what they say, but like their version of Walmart technically is like, you know, if you were playing one of your role-playing games like The Witcher or something, if you went to the market in The Witcher, like there's going to be all these people selling all kinds of adventure gear and the blacksmith's doing this. That's kind of how they alluded to their Walmart being. And they made like a joke, or not really a joke, but a statement saying like, hey, we can't get the thing that we need from Walmart, basically. And that was like still showing that there's rare things that are still in their world that like require these adventures and stuff, which I thought was really cool because they were like, oh yeah, you can just go there and get your adventuring gear, you know?
Yeah.
I think the important thing was it covers the family dynamic a little bit more than you know, necessarily, hey, let's show you, you know, the Manticore, let's show you blah blah blah. Like you go to the pawn shop and that's a what was it, a troll that ran the pawn shop because like
It was a goblin.
was it a goblin? I mean, I guess it's still really a
It was
troll
like a
depending on who you
goblin or-
subscribe to.
Yeah.
But yeah, like they kind of show how like all these things that had some sort of role back in the day have a similar role but modernized today, which I don't know. I thought it was very unique. The entire movie symbolizes the idea sometimes you have exactly what you're looking for, or sometimes, I guess that's a good way to put it. Just yeah, that's a good way to put it. And even the whole adventure they go on kind of after you're done watching it, like the whole thing kind of sums up together like in that kind of a way.
As someone who hasn't watched the movie, it definitely sounds like a movie to try. Honestly, I'll probably I've been needing to catch up on some movies. So that's probably one I'll watch at some point, probably when I finish Legends of Korra or something. I just have something new to watch. But yeah, I mean, when I watch it, Colin, I'll give you my review if it's a good number one pick or not, or if it's honorable mention, like as Zach said he put it.
Yeah, I think the soundtrack, like the score of the movie, was also fantastic because there was a lot of like, it felt like it fit all of the scenes. It felt like it did a really good job at like making you feel the way that they wanted you to feel during the scenes.
Right. Well, to move on to my coveted number one spot, Matt will be happy to hear this. It is Toy Story 3. Every time I feel like I should put myself after Matt or Matt, like whatever, like Matt and I kind of going back and forth with each other, I should do it because I feel like our number 1 and 2 spots are typically the same. But I don't know, Toy Story 3, I think we pretty much already said everything that had to be said about Toy Story 3. Just the emotion of the movie, like towards the end and everything, the kind of the biggest character development throughout it. Personally, I didn't think there needed to be a Toy Story 4, and I really hope they don't make a 5th. Even though 4 was good, I'm sure 5 would be alright at best, but, you know. I feel like if Toy Story 4 didn't happen, Toy Story 3 was like the perfect ending for the series in itself.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have much else to really say about it that Matt and I haven't already talked about throughout this podcast. So, Zach, what is your number 1?
My number 1 was Monsters Inc.
Really? Honestly, I was expecting WALL-E to be on your top 5. I was kind of surprised.
WALL-E? Oh god, no.
No.
Dude, you loved that movie when you were younger.
No, I didn't. My brother loved that movie when I was there. That's why we had all that shit.
Okay.
Yeah,
It was heavily talked about in your house.
I did not love WALL-E.
I was nowhere close to a fan of WALL-E either.
I didn't.
I like WALL-E.
I'm not like that. That's not me saying WALL-E is a bad movie. I just didn't vibe with it. And honestly, I would say if anything, my brother's affinity for it, since I was surrounded by it all the time. And my brother was of the age that it's like, all right, everyone, we're going to sit down and watch a movie. What movie does everybody watch? Doesn't matter what everybody wants to watch. We're watching what Ethan wants to watch. Guess what? It's fucking WALL-E.
Yeah, that was a movie that was on repeat, I feel, a lot in your house.
Yeah, because that's like
Yeah.
where my brother was. That and
Yeah.
Finding Nemo, honestly. I think he loved Finding Nemo. He loved Wally. We had a bunch of fucking Wally toys. That being said, on record, not saying Wally's a bad movie. It's just fucking everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I could agree. I mean, it makes sense. I'm sure just as someone who doesn't live in your house, coming over and seeing all the mass amount of Wally stuff, I just always kind of assume. But tell us why Monster Inc. is your number one.
I mean, I kind of already have, kind of for everything I said previously. Just I love the fun and simplistic reasons, or fun and simplistic things about it when I was younger, but also now being older, like seeing mature themes that I've discovered in it and parallels I can draw. I love that. Also, again, Wally, God damn it, Ron. Monsters Inc. is another movie. That's like that's a movie like my dad was with me. So
Yeah, I mean, I could agree with it. We've already talked a whole lot about Monsters Inc. You, probably more than anyone, bringing up Monsters University, too. Got the whole series in your list.
Yeah, big fan.
Yeah. All right, well, we're going to move on to our honorable mentions part of the show. We all just compiled I mean, there's only like 20 Pixar movies, so I'm sure there might be some repeats in this, too. But
22.
Yeah, 22. But we threw in 3 of our honorable mentions, stuff that didn't make the cut. So Matt, why don't you start us off? Tell us your top 3 honorable mentions.
I didn't have anything on my honorable mentions that we haven't already talked about. I guess the 3 that I would say that didn't make it were Ratatouille, Cars, and Monsters U. I don't really have anything else to comment on that we haven't said already. They're all great. Obviously, like Pixar isn't known for having duds or a lot of duds. They exist, but they're not plentiful. So these are all great movies. I just don't enjoy them as much as the other ones in my list.
The bad Pixar movies you can watch.
If you're talking about passing grades, everything except for Cars 2 has pretty much gotten a passing grade.
Yeah, I agree.
I would say almost every movie, except for some of their like more random ones, and by that I mean like Brave and the Good Dinosaur, has gotten like phenomenal reviews by everybody. So realistically, like they don't produce duds except for Cars 2, apparently, according to critics.
I'm a fan of Cars 2.
Critics said Cars 2 was terrible. But
I did not enjoy Cars 2.
I'm not gonna say it's a great movie, but I enjoyed it.
I mean, here's a good way to think of it. Cinema Score, which is based off of like People, every single movie that Pixar has put out has been given an A, somewhere in the range of an A minus, A plus, or A. So obviously everybody enjoys them.
Makes sense. I mean, who doesn't enjoy a good Pixar movie? Nazis, probably.
You heard it here, folks. If you don't like Pixar movies, if you don't like Pixar movies, you're probably a DreamWorks loving Nazi.
Yeah.
According to
Except
Zach Bliner.
Not DreamWorks loving. That doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I didn't say it, except I did.
I was gonna say, but you did say it.
I think honestly, I think we covered like everything except for, I mean, we talked about some of them, but like the ones that we had on our list, we covered almost every single thing.
Yeah,
there's one didn't talk about.
We haven't talked about.
We just didn't talk about 4 of them, really. All the other ones we have talked about at least.
No one had Inside Out.
Matt, don't spoil the rest of the show. Colin, what's your top 3 honorable mentions?
So my first honorable mention was what you call it? I'm drawing a blank on it right now. Bug's Life. We talked about it. I mean, I think that's good enough. My second honorable mention was one that I just really enjoyed, like the design of it, which was Coco.
I've never seen Coco.
Coco, the story's more about like, death and stuff. So I don't know. It's not like it's a sad. I mean, I guess it's. I mean, all Pixar have sad moments, but it was just a good art direction, because it's very like, if you said, hey, I'm in Spanish class and I'm going to celebrate Day of the Dead in Spanish class, that's kind of what it feels like your teacher goes over the top with all the skull decorations and this and that and blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden it looks like you're actually celebrating Day of the Dead down in Mexico. That's kind of what it feels like, is it's like this, in a way, like almost American interpretation on it. I don't know if it was written by an American, but that's kind of what it feels like. But it has all these bright colors and really cool themes, and like they go into like, I don't know what they call it, but it's essentially like the underworld. And everybody looks like
The Land of the Dead.
yeah, they all go into the or not they all go in, but they all look like what you would picture, like if you took the streamers or whatever you want to call them that have the skulls on it and just created them into a animated person. It's just I think it's really cool. It's worth a mention. One of my honorable mentions was going to be Monster U, but we covered it so much, I'm just going to swap it to Inside Out, I guess, because Inside Out was a fantastic movie, but I just don't think it was anywhere close to some of the others that we've covered. I think it's just kind of there.
Well, I can kind of tackle that Inside Out with you, Colin, because in my honorable mentions, I did have Inside Out. I watched that one, I think, freshman year of college. I loved that movie. I thought it was really good. I just like the voice actors in it, because we had a little Office crossover, Parks and Rec crossover, and I forget who else. Those are the only two I really remember. It was just Leslie and what's her name? Sat across from Stanley in The Office. Phyllis. Yeah. But yeah, that movie, I think the movie was really good. I was debating on having it be in my top 5, but I think Ratatouille beat it out for me. But my other honorable mentions was the first Cars movie. I wasn't a fan of the second and third one. I think the first Cars is really good. And then Monsters, Inc. Being in my honorable mentions too. But we've already talked Monsters, Inc. I think to the ground already. But Zach, what are your honorable mentions?
So, yeah, so one of my honorable mentions is Coco. I really like Coco. I saw it in the theaters. I think it is beautifully animated. Kind of what Colin was saying, as far as like what the work they put into the movie. I did see how they like. I forget if it was in the theater, if it was like after the fact, some like YouTube hole I got down. But I was watching a thing about like talking about like the animation they did and the work they did, like actually trying to capture like the culture and the feeling of not only the holiday and like the area of Mexico they were in, but also like the feel like the Spanish, or I guess Mexican families. And I know it's praised a lot for that. Whenever they played the guitar, like they actually took like video and like a lot of like footage of like people actually playing the guitar and like animating that in. I feel like it's just definitely one of the, not that any of the other Pixar movies don't have love in, but definitely one that has like a lot put into it. The other one I had was Onward. We kind of already talked about that. And then, honestly, Ron, I'm really shocked that Inside Out didn't pass Ratatouille up. I loved Inside Out, and honestly, it was like really hard for me not to incorporate it into this list. But when I first saw Inside Out, I felt like it captures the way of growing up so well. It physicalizes it and depicts it in such a really real and interesting way. Especially whenever you get the jump from like, because you basically live in the girl's head with her emotions the entire time, but whenever you jump from the mother and the father for like that like quick minute and a half scene, I think that's really cool to see, like that those emotions and stuff, like they're generally the same, but they vary in different people. I would love to see another Inside Out that is has something to do with like jumping from person to person, seeing what each person is dealing with or going through or whatever. Yeah, Inside Out definitely, like, it really kind of resonated with me in that way.
I mean, I think Inside Out was definitely a really cool adventure, especially seeing like their interpretation of how the brain stores stuff and like the way they stored all the gumballs in like that one little tiny spot. And like the fact that they turned like your interests into amusement parks basically was pretty cool take on like the whole thing. I think something that I just was kind of thinking about was like all of these have been so memorable, but for me, Wall-E has probably been like I don't even remember Wall-E. It was so forgettable. It probably was fantastic, but I can't remember anything about it that makes it stand out to me other than the fact that there was a robot and a bunch of fat people.
That's fine. We're probably gonna be living in it soon, so get the hands-on experience.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of the. I think a couple years ago they would just like bring up those memes of just like how we're pretty much just evolving into that, which is how technology is just like catering to our everyday needs and everything nowadays too. You know.
Well, I
I mean,
mean,
yeah.
that's kind of the point of technology, though.
Oh, I mean, right. It's just to make the whole. I mean, technology in general is just making your lives easier. That's just
Yeah.
pretty much the whole point.
I associate it more with like kind of like the social dilemma and all that, like getting to the point of like not being able to look up from the screen that like everybody stares at the screen in that movie all the time. They're always looking at it. They don't give a fuck about anything else going on. The chair takes them where they need to be. It takes them like they run on their schedule that the machine is setting for them. That's like kind of what I'm talking about, like with like our phones, like how we can't stop looking at our phones and you get a ping. It's like, oh fuck, like what is this?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the problem with like I think a lot of people definitely do have I think the problem is like the social media aspect of that, but I don't know, I feel like I don't feel like that's really changed if I'm like other than the fact of like social media. I don't think that's really like changed too much in our world because like I remember whenever people were originally talking about, oh, like you spend too much time on your device, and then there were hundreds of photos circulating around after that of like, people back even in the 20s, like standing at a train station, and every single one of them had their face planted in a newspaper, and every single one of them had their face planted into a book or something. So I don't think it really takes away the social aspect. I just think for like
I'm
younger people, it creates a different aspect of their life that isn't very healthy.
I'm not
But
really
I
commenting
definitely
on like like in that way necessarily, more so in a, I guess, deeper way. Yeah, I mean, this is
This is a whole another
yeah.
topic that we could go into at another episode. Top 5 addicting social media apps. I think all of our social media apps would be the exact same.
I mean, I really don't use social media like you guys do, so probably not.
Yeah.
I probably spend minutes on those kinds of things. No, I just think Wall-E was very forgettable in my opinion. Like all the other ones I can pretty much remember. If you said what's the basic plot, I could probably answer the basic plot for every single one. But Wall-E, like if you said what's the basic plot, I was like, I don't know. At one point there were some fat people, Wall-E was shitting out junk turds, and then all of a sudden there was this nice robot, and then it ended.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I've never seen it, so I was never really sure if I always, as a little kid, I always just assumed that was like a critically acclaimed movie. If I'm being honest,
You never seen Wall-E?
No, I never saw it. No.
That's kind of wild.
Yeah.
It really is.
I think you'd really like it, actually.
I think the only movie that we've missed is The Good Dinosaur.
I saw it. It was good.
I heard it was kind of mid. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I mean, it was alright. I think that's the only one that we missed, though. I think everything else we've covered. I think we've covered, at least talked about all of them. So The Good Dinosaur, I don't think was anybody's thought. I'm surprised it wasn't at least something of Matt's shout out, though.
I've never seen it.
Why? Because Matt's horny for dinosaurs.
Matt is so horny for dinosaurs. Yes.
Wow.
But yeah, I think we covered all of them in this podcast. If I'm being honest.
Pretty much. If there's one we're forgetting, then there's probably a good reason we're forgetting.
Oh, Brave. But that one, that felt
was
definitely like a
good.
Disney movie.
That was.
instead.
I think that was just Pixar's like princess movie tryout.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I haven't seen it, so I can't really make an assumption on what the movie is.
So yeah, we covered everything now.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
There we go. Go watch all of them, everyone. But yeah, that's the end of this episode of Top 5. Thank you all so much for listening to today's show. And be sure to let us know whose list you agree with the most. If you like what you heard, please be sure to leave a like, rating, and share our podcast. And we'll see you all next time.